You ever get stuck on a problem? You turn it over and over in your head, but you just can't seem to make any progress? Well, today we're going to explore a really powerful mental shift from the book Solution-Focused Ministry. It offers a whole new framework for getting unstuck, for moving from being paralyzed by problems to being, totally energized by solutions. Let's see how it all works.
So here's the game plan. We're going to start with a simple story to really get the core difference in thinking. Then we'll define what the book calls a solution-focused person. After that, we'll learn a super powerful tool called the miracle question, see how it all applies to real-world challenges, and finally, find out how you can flip your own script and put this whole thing into practice.
All right, so to really get a feel for this idea, the book kicks things off with this great analogy that it perfectly captures the difference between these two ways of thinking.
Okay, so meet problem-focused Pete and solution-focused Sam. They both got a flat tire. Now, Pete, he immediately loses it. He's yelling about nails, complaining about the city, calling everyone he can think of to complain. And what's the result? His car is still stuck. But Sam, totally different approach. He has an auto club membership, makes one call, they change the tire, and bam, he's on his way.
And that's the whole point, right? They both had the exact same problem. A flat tire is a flat tire. But their focus completely changed their outcome. Pete got obsessed with the injustice of the problem itself, while Sam just immediately focused on the path to a solution. One guy stayed stuck, the other one moved on. The book gives us another great analogy to really hammer this home. Imagine a nail sticking out of a chair. A fatalist might say, oh, it was meant to be. Someone into karma might try to analyze their past actions to figure out why. A litigious person, they're already dialing their lawyer. But what do all of these approaches have in common? They're all about analyzing the problem, but nobody's actually fixing it. The solution-focused approach? It's simple. You just remove the nail.
Okay, so we've got the basic mindset down. Now let's look at how the source material applies this to a specific worldview, which it calls the solution-focused Christian. This is a really central concept in the book, so let's unpack what that means.
So according to the book, this isn't just about, being a positive person. It's a completely renewed mental framework. It's defined as someone who is actively following what the source sees as core Christian beliefs, the Great Commission, which is about making disciples, and the Great Commandment about loving God and others. The real key here is that the focus is always on finding these divine, eternal solutions instead of getting bogged down in temporary problems.
And the author grounds this whole idea in a biblical concept, pulling out the Apostle Paul's phrase, the mind of Christ. So this isn't being framed as some new self-help trick. It's positioned as a way of seeing the world through a different, more empowered and ancient lens.
So what does this person actually look like? Well, the book lays out a few key traits. First, they have this eternal perspective. They don't get sidetracked by temporary drama. Their ambition isn't for themselves. It's about serving a bigger purpose. They are super focused. They really know their spiritual gifts, and they are ready to face down some seriously big challenges.
Now, I know this might all sound a bit abstract, but the book gives us a very practical tool to help develop this kind of focus. It's a really powerful exercise, and it's called the miracle question.
So let me ask you directly. Imagine this. You go to sleep tonight, and while you're sleeping, a miracle happens. That one big problem you're wrestling with, it's just completely solved. When you wake up in the morning, what does that solution look like? What is different? The whole point of this question is to cut through all the noise and reveal what it is you truly want.
And the book gives these two fantastic examples of how this plays out. You've got Pastor A. When he's asked the miracle question, he imagines a vibrant youth group, people finding faith. You see, his focus is external. It's eternal. Then you have Pastor B. What does he imagine? A $10 million donation that makes him rich and famous. His focus is internal. It's all about his ego. The question didn't create these priorities. It just revealed what was already there.
And that is the whole point. The miracle you imagine isn't just some daydream. It's a diagnostic tool. It shows you exactly what you're really aiming for. The book argues that the goal is to get your desired miracle aligned with what it defines as divine priorities, not just personal ambition.
Okay, so this mindset sounds pretty good in theory, but what about the practical impact? According to the source, this isn't just about feeling better. It's about making a real, tangible difference across a surprisingly huge range of issues.
The book points to biblical figures. It calls them heroes of faith. And what's fascinating is the incredible variety of problems they actually solved. It wasn't just, spiritual stuff. It was intensely practical things, from project management, like building massive temples, all the way to political advising and even healing.
This quote really just captures the whole spirit of the argument. The idea is that this mindset isn't about offering vague, fluffy advice. It's about taking decisive, timely action to provide concrete solutions for people's actual problems, all driven by a conviction that those solutions are out there. Now, the book makes a really crucial point here. Being solution-focused doesn't mean you have to solve every single problem yourself. It really stresses that everyone has a specific role to play. I mean, think about it. Noah's job was to build an ark, not to write scripture. Paul's job was to plant churches, not to be a construction foreman. The core idea is to find and execute your specific piece of the solution. And that brings us to the final part, which is this powerful call to action. The book calls it flipping the script, and it's a challenge to fundamentally change both our internal and our external narratives. So the author's argument is that there's this common cultural narrative out there that often paints the church as problem-ridden and the secular world as the source of all the solutions. The book's challenge is to flip that perception on its head by actually demonstrating how a solution-focused faith provides real, effective answers. And this right here is the core takeaway. The book argues that this big, external change can only happen after an internal one. To flip the script for the world, you first have to change your own mind, from being problem-focused to solution-focused. You have to develop what the author calls a renewed and masterful mind.
So, let's end by bringing it all the way back to that first simple analogy. In your own life, your job, your community, what's your nail in the chair? What's that one problem you've been analyzing and discussing and complaining about? And what would it look like to just stop analyzing it and simply start solving it?